Bam. It said live, right?
Yep, I've
You
seen
see
on
it?
that.
All right, live. What's happening, World Wrestling Live? We are here tonight. Awesome. I'm honored. Got a badass girl out of Cali. It is Charisa Sigala. Did I say that right?
Almost. Charisa Sigala.
Charisa Sigala.
Yeah.
Bam. Much better now. Let's find that that Facebook because I was all messed up here. But anyway, man, it's a real honor to have her on. She's a pro fighter. She fights out of the bare knuckle fighting championships, right?
Yes, sir.
She's
Flyweight.
like flyweight black belt in jujitsu. And and also like, why not? Well, I'm a black belt in jujitsu. I fight all the time. You know what? I just want to throw fists, no padding, no gloves. That's fucking crazy. You do it. What's up? How are you? Welcome. Man, tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, dude, I love what I do. So I mean, this is all fun to me. Um, I started in MMA. When I was younger, I actually wanted to do wrestling, but they didn't have very much of that when I was growing up. For girls, at least, it was unheard of to have people that actually girls that actually did wrestling. So after high school, I found jujitsu, fell in love, and I always knew watching UFC fights with friends. I'm like, I want to do that. And then after I started my MMA career, a little bit later, once COVID happened, right after actually my last fight for Combate, nothing was going on. And then somebody messaged me like, "Hey, you ever think about bare knuckles?" I was like, "Sure,
Sure.
why not?
Yeah, why not?
Take
I
the gloves off.
I
It's
had a
almost
few
like
fights.
MMA."
Yeah, I had a few fights in high school. I
You
mean, yeah.
know, middle school.
Yeah, and I mean, you've obviously been working really, really hard in the martial arts world because I was trying to go back and look through some of your posts and some of your stuff, and I saw where you wrote this really cool thing about how you never thought you'd make it to black belts. You've been working so hard. You didn't like sometimes you wondered if it really existed, and and you just continue to work. I mean, how many years did you put in to really enjoy that moment?
Well, so I've been training for over 10 years. I started man, it was back in like it's been 11 years actually now that I've been doing jujitsu. Obviously, right now I'm not actually doing as much jujitsu because the bare knuckles don't want to get hurt. But it was just a long road because especially when you're doing it, you have competitions and stuff that you get to, but there's just times, just like in the gym when you're working out, you plateau where you just feel like I don't feel like I'm getting better. I don't feel like I'm getting worse. I feel like I'm just stuck. And so one and the other thing too is you don't see too many females that are black belts. But I've always been one that like loyalty and just you stick with it and you just keep going because I like dedication and I've always been dedicated to finishing what I do no matter what. And jujitsu is definitely hard on the body and it's one of those things that's hard mentally to keep going sometimes because your body is just burnt sometimes when you're actually doing the competitions and even training. So I love it though. Love every minute in that gym.
You said I don't do as much jujitsu because I don't want to get hurt, but I'm doing bare knuckle boxing.
It's actually part of the contract. It
Wait a
says you have to be
second.
careful.
How does that make sense?
So I'm like, yeah, I was like,
I just want to go get punched in the face a little bit, but jujitsu, I don't want to roll around with anybody. I'm good. But
I love jujitsu. I miss it. I know my professor is probably like, when you come back, I understand, but you need to get your butt back in here.
yeah,
But
well, I think this is a means to the process that you're going on, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe bare knuckle is your passion, and that's what you do for many, many years. But I think that ultimately it's probably a stepping stone for you, right?
oh yeah. This just the waves just from my one bare knuckle fight that I had versus jujitsu and MMA fights. And I mean, I fought on Combate America. Well, now they're Combate Global, but they were Combate Americas back then. And they were a pretty big organization that was up and coming, and the production was crazy, but nowhere near as much attention from that as I did with bare knuckle. And I think it's pretty crazy. A lot of people ask me, it's sort of crazy. How is it? And I'm like, it's actually not that bad. I feel like MMA actually felt worse because elbows, elbows suck way more than a fist. And
Yeah,
I almost feel like too, like when you don't have padding on your hand, it in your head you register like, oh, I need to move my head a little bit more because you can feel the impact of those punches, right? A
but
lot
yes,
more.
you don't exactly want to feel those knuckles in your face, right?
No.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, you had an absolute war in February. I was looking at, if anybody hasn't seen it, go back and watch it. It was just an absolute battle. Both of them at the end were just filled with blood, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
awesome. But it got you a contract, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it definitely did. I love, thank you to Bare Knuckles and David Feldman and Nate Shook for having me on that card. Much respect to Taylor. I mean, she did what she did. She got the win. I definitely want a rematch one day. Because I'm like, I know I can beat this girl. Um, but it is what it is. And I love stepping into that ring. Any place, especially since Bare Knuckles is up and coming, and I know that they have so much they've grown really quick, really fast. So anywhere where you're able to go out there and put your art out there is awesome. And I love that. And for this one, I've always been a fan of boxing. And I know bare knuckles is still different than boxing, but boxing is the biggest base because that's, the old style of boxing was bare knuckles. It was fisticuffs is what they called it
Yeah.
back in the day. So that's where boxing came from. And I just, that love just the movements, the techniques. I have always been in awe. Same thing with like judo and wrestling. When somebody gets that perfect takedown, it's so beautiful. Whether it's on myself or I do it to somebody else, it's just to me, it's awesome. I love that part
And
of
the,
it.
the transition. Um, so some of the background, she's jujitsu black belt. She's wrestled on the mat. She's uh, not competitively as a youth, but she's had to train with wrestlers and learn the craft. She's done a lot of judo. So now going into bare knuckle boxing, have you had to bring on a boxing coach to your team?
Yes, I started after that fight because it was hard to find it right before that fight because still things were closed in California again. So it was hard finding somewhere new because you had to find somewhere that was willing to take somebody new and not sure what was if this person was a real person or somebody that's going to get them in trouble for being open when they're not supposed to be open.
Sure.
So after the fight, I definitely found a boxing place that's really good that's close to my house, and I've been there since then because
They,
I'm
they
like
allowed you into they allowed you into Fight Club after that?
oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine after I just watched part of the fight, and I'm like, yeah, she's allowed at Fight Club. Yeah, yeah.
Well, what happened? Like,
Yes, don't talk about it. Yes.
but
What
it's some of these guys, they're like, they box, they've done a lot of boxing, and they're still like, oh, you do bare knuckle? I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
come on, I'm more in awe of you in like 20 fights.
And they what made you fall in love with fighting at a young age? You mentioned that you've been doing this about 11, 12 years now. What made you, I know you had mentioned you really wanted to wrestle. However, at the time that wasn't very welcome to you because of being a female and all, which sucks, and can't believe
Mhm.
that shit still happens. However, we are moving forward because there's a lot
Yeah.
of girls doing awesome things now. You probably look at it and you're probably really happy to see that. But then next thing you know, you're in a jujitsu, you're in judo, and now all of a sudden in bare knuckles. I mean, what has that path been by, and why fighting? Why was that your desired path in life?
So one thing that I think is really cool is where I went to school, they now have a girls wrestling team. So I love that. I wish they had it when I was there, but it is what it is. It is now. Um, so I always wanted to get into fighting because when I was younger, I had bad experiences just as a child of just people. I had a little bit of abuse as a child, and I felt like for me, it was one of those things where I told myself I would never ever want to feel vulnerable um, ever again, ever. So as I got older, I was always a tomboy. So I wanted to get out there, and I wanted to always play basketball or volleyball or whatever. So when I got to be older, I found my love. I was like, this is what I want to do. Jujitsu was perfect for me because I'm like, it's like that self-defense aspect, but it's where you're in the place where you would feel most vulnerable all the time as you're on the ground, either on your back or on top. And it meant it's a mental thing too, because people ask me a lot, like, oh, what is it about bare knuckles? And I feel like for people to actually do well in the sport, it's total mentality. Like if you're not ready to go out there and actually like give it your all, like you're not gonna make it because there's some people that look at it like, oh, look, she's getting, she's look at all the people that are following her now, or look at all the views, but it's not about that. Because when you go out there and that's the thing that you're looking for, this is not where you want to be. Because the minute you get punched, you're going to be one of those people that are on the ground like, okay, you're going to act like it hurts worse or complain about your eye, and you'll be done. The girls that are in there right now are all ready to throw down and throw their hands, and that's what I love. I've always been more of that brawler type, and so I love that about bare knuckles, is because that's what you'll see.
Yeah,
You'll
and
get a lot of the girls that go out there just swing.
it sucks that, a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of girls I've spoke to, that's how they got into fighting. They've had issues younger, but a lot of boys that I talked to too were bullied or
Mhm.
had issues of different, obviously, unfortunately, different type of abuses, but still bullied the same. And they get into either wrestling or whatever avenue of martial art, and it really changes their confidence. I mean, I've seen it with my son. He was bullied at a younger age, found the wrestling room. Um, Now you can see his confidence is different. The way he carries himself is different. The way and he hasn't won shit yet, right? But he's on his way. But you can see what it's done to him. The sport has done to him mentally. I mean,
Mhm.
how much has it changed your self confidence or self awareness or self belief from pre this life?
It really does. So I mean, before it was more of the types where I think I was always confident in myself, but you had that thing like, oh, I need to hold my keys when I'm walking, if I'm by myself, walking to my car after work and stuff like that, to where it's like, I don't need that. Like, I know how to throw, like, I was just in a bare knuckle fight, like, people are always like, oh, you could be my bodyguard. No, you're not paying me.
You're not paying.
As
I
long
heard that. I talked to a girl once. She's a teacher at one of the local karate places, and she went to school in Georgia, Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
She said she was coming out of SCAD, and somebody tried to like rob her or something, right? Because at
Mhm.
the time that was big, unfortunately, going on over there. Well, she's a black belt,
Incredible.
and she just like totally fucked the person up, and it was like, okay, I think word got out because she never had to worry about that again. But she protected herself, and that's awesome. But just to carry yourself now in that same manner, how much has it changed who you are?
Oh, 100%. Because even just walking around, I feel like my head's held higher. I think just talking to people is just more that confidence. And it's crazy because even if people don't know, in the back of your head, you're just like, oh, like it's just another day. So it's pretty good. It's a good feeling. I love it.
Yeah, because you know,
Yeah,
I got myself. I can take
yeah,
care.
exactly.
Yeah,
I don't have to worry about this person if they want to get crazy on me,
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you want to get jumpy, we can take it, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
even if you get me, you're gonna remember me tomorrow, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Get
awesome.
one lucky punch, because that's all you'll
That
get is one lucky punch. You
one
better
lucky
punch me when
punch,
I've turned
and it's
around.
over after that. Yeah, there's a lot of Coach George Civilian. He just asked, he's like, "Girl, you need to come to Florida. It's open. It's sad they just canceled the California wrestling season. Uh, where do you train out of, and when is your next fight?" As far as when is her next fight, we don't know that yet. She's in talks right now with her team,
Mhm.
and they're handling that behind the scenes, but she'll let us know as soon as that comes up. As far as where do you train, you could answer that.
So, for MMA, I was training at Millennia, but I'm at a boxing club, so it's super close to my house, and I still train with one of my coaches that's no longer at Millennia. We train at a couple of different places, but
Yeah,
I'm like, But yeah, I'm on my boxing club. I haven't said where it's at yet
I
because you never know.
Don't, don't take it personally right now. California shut down, so kind of tough to put anybody on blast there because you don't want to get anybody in trouble. So
No.
we're just trying to keep that. But I'm sure if anybody wants to private message her or whatever, see where she's training at. But don't be an asshole in private message.
Oh, I have so many. I'm like, don't. I was like, not gonna answer this one.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you get it. Uh, what's the what has the experience been like transitioning to that bare knuckle and leading up into your first fight that you had in February, right? In the
Yeah,
knuckle arena. What
yeah,
was what was it like training for something you've never trained for before? It's always been jujitsu or judo or some sort of
mhm.
MMA. Going into what was that experience like? Because it's not a boxing. I mean, it's kind of it's almost like a legal street fight, right?
Yeah. I was like, it's like Street Beefs, but
Yeah, like,
or
were
what
the
is it?
feelings
World
different?
Star?
The
It's like World
butterflies
Star,
different? Like,
but
yeah, like, what the butterflies different? What's the process preparing for that type of battle?
yeah. So nobody that I had known had done it. I mean, my coaches sort of knew some people that had somebody that did it, so they got a little bit of stuff from them, but it was a lot of striking. It's all we worked on was striking. And the thing that's different with bare knuckles too, that's different from because there's different bare knuckle organizations, and BKFC is pretty much boxing rules, but you can also clinch. So it was still working in those clinches and throwing punches and stuff like that. And then a lot of people were like, "Oh, you need to worry about your hands, condition the knuckles." But after that fight, I don't think that that's something that I had to really worry as much about, because I think that was my biggest thing in my head is like, "Oh, don't break your hand, don't break your hand." But your hands do go numb after a few punches. Your hands start getting really puffy and they start going numb. So I was throwing and sometimes I was like, I don't even know if I'm hitting because you can't feel anything. And I'm sure they're really soft at this point.
Are you still though? You still wrap your wrists and stuff to keep them from break. You still
Yeah. So you're
put something
wrapped
secure.
from you're wrapped from wrist to an inch above the knuckles. So you can't have anything from here up.
Just to
So
keep your wrists safe and everything, right?
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So man, that was so you get hit that first time where you're like, okay, I'm here.
Uh, when I'm fighting, and I think it's the same for anything. Honestly, in my head, I don't feel anything. It was as soon as you get to the ring for me, the squared circle is what we have at BKFC. As soon as you hear them say "knuckle up," and you just go. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, I'm already in this. I'm like, I'm done. Like we're going, and it just not. I'm sure people get this in wrestling too and stuff. It's just go. It's you can't have second thoughts. You can't have anything. It's just my head's in that fight. That's it. I don't hear the arena. I heard it at the very end. So it really sucked because everybody's like, "Oh, you guys had a standing ovation." I'm like, "We did?" Like I heard people cheering, and it was so loud because I could hear people and I couldn't hear my coaches my when he was yelling at me. And that was the first thing he said, like on our first one. He's like, "Could you hear me?" I'm like, "No."
I ask kids that, wrestlers, and I'm like, man, I always hear your coaches like yelling at the top of their lungs, and they're trying to get your attention. And even my young son, he'll tell, or my older son will tell me, he goes, Dad, I don't know how to explain it, but you don't hear it. He like it's weird. You once you're into that circle, it's almost like everyone else doesn't matter.
Yes. But my MMA fights, I could hear my coach all the time. It was just this one. I couldn't hear. And it's pretty cool because some of your competitions out there and they're in the on the floor watching the fights. Well, one of the girls that's in my weight class was giving me tips on what to do, and I heard her at the very end, like, "Oh wait."
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Man,
To
that's
sort of be friends with the other girl too. So I was like, "All right."
that's awesome. So
Love it.
obviously you've had a lot of great experiences so far. What would you say is your best experience so far in fighting? Is it that bare knuckle fight, or has it been some different tournaments or opportunities, or when you were coming up through the amateur rankings?
So that was like my biggest and most awesome because the fact that um so I didn't hear the standing ovation there, but when we walked to the back, like everybody was cheering. Like as soon as I walked to the back, all the fighters, because they can watch you, they see you on the screen. They have one in the back in each room for the other fighters. They were like cheering for us. So that was actually pretty cool because I mean I've never been at an event where your peers at a fight are like cheering you on once you finished your fight, you know,
Yeah.
especially because I mean I didn't win, so especially after that, it was pretty
I mean,
cool.
you both won, really.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
whatever. She got her hand raised, and congratulations to her. And but
it made her bleed first.
yes, let's get that one run back.
I didn't have to get stopped to be checked by the doctor. Just saying.
Yeah, she's like, oh my god, I just got punched in the face. Whatever, it's okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, I got another cool ass tattoo. Look at
Right?
those.
It's
Yeah,
gonna be the next one, bloody
that's,
fist.
is that so you know, what do you do just to chill? Like when you're not fighting and you're just being a regular human in life. What are you doing?
My, my chill days are in school. I'm actually still a college student. I'm working. I have one more year for my bachelor's, and then I'm gonna go to master's. But honestly, most of the time, if anything, I'll have Netflix playing in the background while I'm doing my homework. But the one thing I do love, which I've been taking classes just to make myself do it, is photography. So I have a it's a professional camera, but it's not like top of the line. So I have fun taking pictures.
I'll have to call you for some tips because I've taken to photography myself and I started going out to all these tournaments for the kids because I just felt like the kids want pictures of themselves and
Yes.
there's nobody really doing it. Um, there's some people doing it out there, like there's Southeast Wrestle and there's different photographers. But as far as, you know, and Southeast Wrestle does this, I know for sure because we're friends. And he's the one that guided me. Like he just posts them and lets the kids come and get them for free.
Yeah.
So as I started to do that, it was amazing the feedback you got
Mhm.
as far as like people are like, "Are you making money off that?" I'm like, "No, my money comes when that kid private messages me and is like, man, thank you so much for these photos,' because they wouldn't have got them otherwise if I didn't show up." So
Yeah.
sometimes they totally suck, but the kids are like, "That's a badass photo." I'm like, "Okay, it's yours." Right?
I think
Like,
it's the moment though, because I feel like sometimes the picture, like we could think it sucks because there's so many pictures that I like, and other people are like, I like this one better. I'm like, really? I think this one's nicer, but I feel like it's the moment. Like,
I totally screw stuff up. Like I can't figure out. Like sometimes I'm like, damn it, why is she shaking now? I can't. How did I get that happen? The last one worked. So I'm learning all that stuff myself. But that's cool.
you have
Photography is
the quicker, yeah. So it has to be
like
quicker.
up to like 400 or 800 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you and as tattoo, like getting a tattoo, does that kind of give you some solace?
I love tattoos. I don't know for me, like when I'm getting tattooed, my tattoo artist is actually really quiet. So he'll talk to me every once in a while, but he's just that type of person that's sort of just more introverted. But he does really beautiful work. I mean, that's why I go with him. It's been over 2 years and my yellow is like super, super vibrant still.
No.
Um, but in my head, I'm thinking of combos when I'm, 'cause I don't know what other people do, but I'm sure we all
What am
have our thing. But I'm like,
I gonna hit that girl with? What am I gonna hit that girl with? Right?
and then that's something that people do in jujitsu. They'll have the jujitsu journals. It's sort of my meditation when I'm in there, like getting tattooed. And I feel like because my tattoo artist was my cousin's tattoo artist first, and they became friends. And so my cousin's always telling me, he's like, "Hey," he says, "you like can sit through the most painful parts like nothing." Like, oh, thinking about those combos really does work.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, man, I just got punched in the face. How do I avoid that? Holy shit, that's not good. That hurt.
Anything to take your mind off of it, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. It's pretty cool. I got to meet you, man. This is pretty awesome. I'm having so much fun, and I can't wait to watch you fight. Like I can go and watch reruns now. One thing is like I guess everybody comes up through the amateur ranks, right? But then
Yes.
when you became a pro, what's it been like now being a pro, having the opportunity to make money? What's changed for you? And then obviously we spoke a little bit off the
Mhm.
air. once you got that bare knuckle fight, I mean, the roof's blown off for you, right? People are calling, people are reaching out, people are checking in, like trying to do business, right? I mean,
Oh
what's
yeah.
life been like now as a pro?
Yeah. So I should have something upcoming soon. I'm hoping to be able to announce whenever they give me the okay. But the whole like, so sponsors are always welcome. If anybody wants to sponsor, obviously training camp is expensive. But it's been pretty crazy. I mean, um, just the difference between MMA and it was so hard just finding fights to now, like after that bare knuckle one, I've had people, you want to fight for this one, you want to fight for that one. I'm like, no, I really want to fight for BKFC as much as people think that it's crazy because they look at it, it looks so barbaric. But I'm just like, it's not as I feel like the elbows and the knees to the face are like way more, they hurt way more than actual
But
hands to the face.
I think I like you hear the announcers sometimes like doing like the UFC fights or whatever, and you hear the announcers and they'll say that on there. They'll be like, oddly enough, like I've heard Bisbane say, oddly enough, you don't feel the punches. Like I
No.
feel the kicks, I feel the elbow, I feel, but the punches just kind of you don't feel them. So
No.
yeah, and I can't understand it because I would think if I'm getting punched in the face, I'm gonna feel it. But apparently, at your level, that's just something that comes with the job.
But you will see it the next day because it's, well, not necessarily the next day because I mean, your face has all, you have so many arteries and veins in your face. And so you're going to swell. So you definitely swell after, even like I just got a couple cuts from the fight and I did have the hematoma on my, above my eyebrow, which is why they wanted me to go to the hospital. They were like making sure that it wasn't broken. I'm like, it's not broken. I know what a broken
Like,
bone feels
hell
like.
no, I'm Mexican. I got this.
I'm over here.
Thanks, kid.
The one cool thing is that going to the hospital, they got to stitch me up, whereas there they use the staple, like the actual staple gun to do all the
Oh,
scars. So I was like, well, it didn't hurt as much to get my stitches in, but
yeah. And then being stapled right there.
I didn't get to see all the fights. And while Shaq was there, there was like a couple other people. I was like, it would be cool to meet them.
Yeah, I want to meet Shaq. That's cool, right? Big
I
tall.
don't care about the blood coming down my face. Like, just
Yeah,
let me go out there and do my thing.
if I remember, he pulled into the car dealership once down here, and he didn't have a front seat in the car. It was almost like he was driving from the back seat.
I believe it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that was his front seat, but I think they had to like make the car that
Make it so
long.
long.
Yeah, yeah, because he's just huge, right? So
Man.
yeah, that was funny. I did see that once because I heard like a voice out in the. I'm like, that sounds like the guy on
You're
TV.
like, where's he at?
Where's he at? Yeah, and then you look, you're like, damn, you're big. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
what's that song? What's that music that goes in your ear when you're vibing or ready to get out there?
I just listen to everything. Honest, there's nothing that like pumps me up. I'm actually very, very serene before a fight because for me, it's like another day. I know some people get really nervous, and I've heard people say, "Well, if you don't get nervous, I think you're lying." Nope. I'm like, I really don't I get nervous when I get my opponent's name the first time that I get their name, and then after that, it's gone because I feel like the hardest work is done in the gym, and the fight is because it's 5 2-minute rounds is what bare knuckles is. So it's not that long of rounds. So it's 10 minutes of your life, but I train for over an hour each time I train. Boxing is an hour and a half classes. And then if you do 2 a days, I mean, you're doing 2 hour and a half classes. I go run, which I think is way more painful because you got, on the on the joints than actually doing the boxing. But I feel like the hard work is before. So for me,
So
that
by the time
fight
you
is
get
just
there,
another
you're
day.
ready to go.
I just listen to whatever just keeps me calm. So, I mean, I listen to a little bit of everything. Usually it's the top 40. I'm one of those. I just listen. If it's something like we have Kiss FM, I don't know what you guys have out there, but any of that like pop kind of music. And I'm a country girl. I love country too. So grew
Oh,
up listening to country.
perfect. Hey, everybody's got their thing, right?
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. What so hopefully we'll hear about your next
Yes.
journey into the ring. Uh I had something on my mind I was gonna ask you. We talked about the music. Damn. What's what's life after fighting for you? I know you're working on your bachelor's and your master's.
Yeah,
Are there other
eventually I want
goals
to go to
or
med school. So I really want to be a sports physician. Right now I want to I actually want to get my master's for athletic training because I want to get in, I want to stay in sports. I love sports. I find it, I've never been amazing at coaching because sometimes I don't get the words out there quick enough. So for me, I already understand the injuries. And so I like that part of it. So any way that I can help, and I like helping youth too. So for me, I feel like that's another way to get in there and help our new generation that's coming in. Because I feel like I didn't have guidance when I was growing up. I feel like there's always somebody out there that needs some. So
well, and for for our wrestling family out here that are watching this, you spoke about wanting to get into wrestling, just didn't work out that way. You got into jujitsu and did all that, but now being a professional fighter, how important has it been to incorporate wrestling into your fighting, and how important do you think it is to the fight game?
so it was huge actually so it was really huge when I was doing all my MMA fights. Um, some of my training was like just an hour and a half of just straight wrestling. And the good thing is we had like the big judo mats. So we would just spend time throwing each other on the mat. That's all my coach would make me do until I consistently got better. And because I was older, it took me so much longer to learn these, I feel like, than if I was young. Because if I was young, I feel like you just pick it up. That's one of the things that I miss about coaching the jujitsu kids is that those 5 year olds, you teach them, and it's amazing watching how quick they get it. And then adults, you teach them and they're newer at it, it takes them longer because I think we just overthink things. And I know I definitely do. So I like break down in my head.
I don't think you're alone with that. Yes.
So I just remember sometimes I come home and my whole back of my leg just full of bruises just from the shoulder bumps to do the doubles or the thing. Yeah, it was painful,
Yeah.
but it's a huge thing because I mean, if people like me that are black, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. If I want to get to the ground, I have to find a way to take it there. So that wrestling is huge. And for me, I knew judo, a little bit of judo from jujitsu, so I always tend to go more towards the judo types of wrestling that they have out there. Because there's the coach, I can't remember which school he was from, but he would teach a lot of the judo types of wrestling moves for the coaching. Because every Sunday they would have the high school kids come out, and that was sort of cool. Even though they're younger, they were my size, so I actually got to go against someone my size, and I actually could actually lift them versus trying to lift these big guys. Because even the girls, I mean, we had there were quite a few girls, but they didn't always show up at the same times to do the different jiu-jitsu practices or the MMA practices. But it's huge. You got to find some way of takedowns. So whether it's wrestling or judo, but I think wrestling, I think is the best. I think as far as MMA is concerned, just because I feel like wrestlers have a different mentality when it comes to fighting. They just are, go 100% of the time. And I love watching the catch wrestling. Because Tatiana, that trains at Millennia, she was more of a catch wrestler, and just watching her transition from one to the next, I was like, one day, I hope I look like that. I know it's gonna be a long shot because she did it for a long time. But if I could just know how to do from one to the next the way she does, that would be awesome. Even if I didn't get it.
Who,
I love
who, who's been your biggest inspiration?
growing up, it was always like the Gina Carano's, and I watching UFC. I like guys like Roger Huerta because back then he was in his prime. I know it's different now. A lot of those guys are out, but just a lot of my coaches, just the things that they did in the past, it was just always things to look up to. Like, oh, I want to get to where you were one day, And then watching people like Tatiana in the gym who went on the Ultimate Fighter, and her story, and then where she got to is actually pretty cool as well.
That's awesome. And how important is it to you to, you talked about wanting to give back, and you talked about how your school now has a girls wrestling team and everything. How important is it for you yourself to go and give back to the youth and get more girls on the mat?
I think it's huge because I feel like even in jujitsu, I think the one thing that is that comfort. They feel uncomfortable sometimes working with men. As we get older, the girls don't want to go in there and do it. So it's like you have to have that comfort level at a younger age. So I feel like getting them out there and doing it is a huge part of it because I think it girls are underestimated. I think they used to put them in that little little category like we were little dolls, and if you did one thing you're going to break us, but we really aren't. Like I feel like us girls have a different mentality, and if it's what you want to do, I feel like you got to go for it. And sometimes those girls just need somebody to talk to get you like, yeah, you can totally do this sort of thing. Even if you go in there and you suck, the fact that you go in there and do it and try it and then figure out that you don't like it. Kat Zingano talked about that actually. She talked about how there was no wrestling team when she was growing up. There was no girls wrestling. And she said she was going to do it and she stuck with it. And she said they were trying to get her out of there. I remember hearing that story and I was like, man, I wish I did that when I was younger.
Yeah, I had a oh man, I'm trying to remember her name. She was she had wrestled already with her dad, and she moved to a new town. And
Hmm.
she walked in, and the boys were like, "Oh my god, we got this." And then when
Hmm.
she got on the mat, she started kicking their ass, and the coach was like, "Oh damn!" And I've done like 530 interviews. I'm trying to remember which one that was, but
Yeah.
I love talking to her. I'll remember when I'm off. If you're listening, I apologize, but it was awesome listening to her tell the story. And she was like, yeah, when they were like, well, we're going to call your dad and ask you. And she's like, it's not a good idea. Because he was going to be like, oh, you might not want to bring her out there to wrestle your boys. But I know, excuse me, someone just asked, who is your black belt under?
So I go to Gracie Baja and Chino, and it's under Rafael Alvera Barbosa. Because there's a lot of Rafael Alveras out there, but Rafael Alvera Barbosa.
Yeah, there's one in the UFC. Is it? There was a,
He's the kickboxing coach.
oh, he's the kickboxing coach?
Yeah, he's the kickboxing coach,
Oh,
I believe.
wow. Yeah, he's a badass, right?
Oh yeah, not my coach. That's the other one from the UFC.
That's all right.
My coach is badass too. My professor is badass.
I think
I love
they're
him.
all badass, right? So
Yeah.
that's cool. Gracie Ibarra. There's some Gracie Barras down here as well. I know there's
Oh
some
yeah.
exposures down here.
That's So I love Gracie Baja because it's like a huge family, and I know there's always people within the jiu-jitsu industry that's like, oh, this team, that team. For me, it's not about teams. What I loved about Gracie Baja is that you can go to anyone pretty much, and you have a visitor card, so you can go to all the different ones. They're like, and they welcome you if you're another Gracie Baja member, and being a black belt is a little bit cooler because you get a little bit more of an in than if you were like somebody starting out. So
Yeah. I'm a white belt walking in. They're like, not today, kid. Sorry, old man.
once you get in there, it's a little bit easier because then like the black belts will start talking to you a little more instead of feeling a little awkward.
That's awesome. Or when you tap one of them out.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Well, man, this has been a great experience. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank
Uh,
you for having me. I love this.
yeah, it's bad. I hope we can stay in touch. I hope we can
Oh yeah,
do this
definitely.
more. Uh, it'll be fun. And then, yeah, man, let me know. I'm sure Chad will too. What goes down when you decide what's next for you, and that'd be
Yeah, I
awesome.
definitely want to thank them. Like Sucker Punch, when they came up to me after my fight and asked to represent me, that was pretty awesome. Chad's been really working. I love him. So he's been doing an awesome job.
Yeah, I've been really blessed to meet him throughout the process of my show. Um, I don't remember how it happened, but at some point we connected, and I've had some of his athletes on, um, and it's been great. And I know now a lot of his wrestlers are trying to get some camps going, some clinics going. So
Mhm.
anybody out there's listening, hit up Chad Lasley. He's got a lot of great athletes that are looking to do some things for the summer. So you're just looking to fight
Yes. I
and
just
get
want to punch someone in the face.
and get your master's degree.
Throw hands.
Yeah. My sister-in-law is an athletic trainer. She did I think back then she got her bachelor's in athletic training. No,
Yeah, it was probably bachelor's because now it's master's. They just changed that recently, at least in California.
but then she had to get, I think, master's in physical therapy. I think she had to do bachelor's in other and a master's in physical therapy.
And
But
in
now
California for PT, that we just call them PT, you have to have a doctorate now in California.
everywhere now. Now
Yeah,
it's
it's everywhere.
master's in athletic training and your doctorate, they moved it. So yeah,
Pretty
that's pretty
crazy.
cool. Yeah, because I remember her talking about maybe I'll go back and do that. I'm like, the hell you want to do that for?
You already got it.
Yeah,
You got that grandfathered in. Why do you want to go back to school?
yeah, it's in your
Money.
pocket. Yeah, don't do that.
Please, you have way more experience just doing it already.
Yeah. But we were talking about something the other day. I think the coaches were talking about like 2-a-days or something. And she's like, oh my God, I remember going through athletic training classes at
Oh
UC,
God.
and
The,
they made us go, the athletic trainers had to go out there and do the 2-a-days with the athletes. And she's like, it sucked. And she wasn't even the athlete. It was just being up at 5 a.m. and then having to be back at whatever time.
yes.
Kind of felt it also. Well, hey, so Fernando Marquez just said best wishes. Um, yeah, man, best wishes to you. I keep kicking ass and keep kicking life's ass, man. Keep doing big things and uh, happy. Hopefully, one day I get to meet you or come to one of your fights and
Person.
watch you
Hey,
kick
last
some
time I
ass.
was in Orlando.
Yeah, well, hit me up if you're ever in here.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, well, you can be my bodyguard. I'll be like, yeah, fuck me tonight.
Like 5'4". Come on.
Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, see the little one there? She'll fuck you up.
Pictures. You have two pictures, one really big tatted up person, and then you got the UFC fighters, and it's like this person can kick this person's ass. That's
That's me. I love it. I love it. Man, Danny Marquez said, keep up the great work.
my dad.
You said hi, Dad?
That's my dad,
Oh,
Danny.
what up, Dad? Cool. Yeah, obviously you raised a badass, so good job. Hey, so keep doing it. Cool. Maybe I just need to come out there and get a tattoo from
The
your guy.
tattoos. Tom Clark, old time tattoo.
I'll just be like, just do something, whatever.
Yeah, I still want to add more. I gotta wait till after the fights are over, till I know I have like a little bit of time off.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, go through all that. Your dad's,
Actually get to heal.
yes, she is. Yeah. I think, or you get to at least think about those combinations longer.
Yes, exactly.
Well, yeah, so bare knuckle is where it's at for you now. Boxing is where you're at. Represented Chad Lasley, and I mean, do you picture yourself is the top of the game is the UFC, right? I mean, out of everything, is that the ultimate goal? Or
I
now
mean that
I
was
hear such great things about bare knuckle fighting, and a lot of athletes going there. Is this a place now where athletes are gonna, you know, not compare it at the same level, but where they can say to them, this is the top of their sport as well?
I could see that happening. The biggest thing is that they put a lot of money out there. You know, they find a way to bring people in. And there's no, what I was fighting for when I was fighting for MMA was nowhere near what they're paying me now. And so it was just, you had that money and it's that transition. It's like, it's still fighting. Like it's still, I love stand up. Yeah, my background is more on the ground fighting, but obviously from my last fight, people can tell, like, I don't plan on always being on the ground fighting. I don't mind fighting, standing up. Um, so I feel like they're gonna pull people over, and you see a lot of people that got cut either from UFC or finished their contract. They're coming over because they're talking about on this next one. Hector Lombard. You have who's the other one? There's two. Oh, Thiago Alves. That's supposed to be a title fight against Willie Diaz. They're supposed to be fighting for a title on this next BKFC event that they're having. They just
Wow.
haven't announced when, but they announced that they're fighting. So
Nice.
you
Well,
got
hey,
you
I mean, you want to show them some love before we leave. Shout out to KFC, man.
Yeah, BKFC. And then Med CBD, they're one of my sponsors. They're awesome. Contender Series has been awesome as well. And then a Sucker Punch.
Absolutely. Well, hey, shout out to Sucker Punch and Chad Lasley and his company out there and what he's doing. Big things. Shout out to Pops, Danny Marquez, right there. Love watching her progression and vision. Um, and shout out to Bare Knuckle, man. Keep doing some badass stuff and putting these badass fights together and giving these badass girls and boys a place to showcase their skills, right?
Oh yeah. I know they finally brought a because people always ask, who do you want to fight next? I'm like, the girls division is that big yet? I don't know. Let me see who names. And
Yeah,
they're finally bringing names over. They got a couple big signings. So that was pretty cool to see. I'm
right.
like, this is my competition next.
Oh man, hey, this is what I know the coaches always tell my 15-year-old, like, eventually you got to beat somebody, right? Not he's had wins, right? But I mean, if you want to be known or you want to be get your
Hmm.
name on the board, eventually you got to beat somebody who's somebody, right?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, eventually that's going to be your opportunity.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm training. I'm training my butt off just to get out there and make sure it happens. So
It's Pete Gonzalez. The thing is, bare knuckle fighting, no health insurance. You need to get patched up and checked out by the doctors, and that financially costly. At least every fighter uh, is thoroughly checked out and treated, or whatever. I don't know.
it's there's insurance. They have the insurance for the show, but I mean, I work and I have my own insurance too.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
all make sure
All right,
I'm
cool. Well,
good.
hey, thanks for the advice, Pete. Good luck to you and all your future endeavors. Thank you. Pete Gonzalez is unbelievable in the wrestling world. He coaches some great fighters, and I think some of his wrestlers are off into MMA now as well.
Yes.
So yeah, good stuff. Well, hey, keep doing big things. I'm going to be watching. Oh, that's good to know. You have your own insurance.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm
Hey,
taking care of.
Pete,
I actually have accident
handled.
insurance too.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got to insure that pretty face, right?
I'm smart. I
Yeah.
was like, I went to business school a long time ago.
There you go. Doing
I'm
business.
educated.
That'll be good for you because once you're done throwing down, you can start doing your own thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hey,
Well, that's
thank
the
you
hope.
so much. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to following you, becoming one of your huge fans. Thank you to Sucker Punch and Chad Lazley, BKFC. Keep putting up good fights. And thanks for everybody that commented and shouted her out. Have an awesome night.
You too. Thank you.
I
Have
know now
fun.
it's nighttime finally in California.
Yes, barely.
See you. Thanks so much again. It's an absolute honor.
Thank you. Same here.
All right.